Thanks, Wazza. And now for a Harley. You know, it's difficult to understand, looking at this Sportster, to imagine that this bike began its starting life from the Harley-Davidson race programme. You see, it all happened in the engineering department of that factory in Milwaukee when the engineers decided to experiment with an overhead valve version of the famous K-Racer. Then, in 1957, after a bit of trial and error, it all came together and this bike was unveiled, the famous Sportster.
All these years later, the Sportster in many ways remained unchanged, only it's as far away from a race bike as any two-wheeler could be. But whilst the R1 riding cynics out there will probably curse their way through the duration of this test, I have to admit this Harley ain't half bad. Powered by Harley's smallest motor, the 883 Evo, this bike may weigh well in at a rather unsportster-like 240 kilos and produce less horsepower than the manufacturers would care to mention, but it's quite good fun and effortless to ride.
All the twins' power can be found low down in the rev range, and once up and over 5,000 revs there's very little going on. Now, before all that power is transferred to the road, it goes via the standard issue 5-speed box, and although it only requires quite a positive shove, you just can't escape the whole clunkiness of the whole thing. And you know what, I would have thought by now Harley-Davidson would have dialed that out, but I guess it's just part of the whole Harley-D thing.
The wooden brakes are wholeheartedly unexciting. There's practically no feel to speak of, and even with a fistful of lever, you still can't stop the thing in a hurry. What's interesting though is the way a Sportster can be hustled through corners faster than you might think. The suspension may look rather primitive, but it does work. In fact, a well-ridden Sportster can prove quite a tool on a tight, twisty road, thanks to its half-decent geometry and low centre of gravity.
But most will want a Sportster because it's a Harley-Davidson, and not an expensive one at that, at £5,900. It's the baby of the range. The Sportster is the entry-level model. But don't forget, this is a special one. It's the R version and has a host of extras, including this rather retro-looking paint job. So let's see how our Sportster measures up with our scores on the doors.
The performance rates 7 out of 10. That torquey motor will push you forwards at a reasonable rate so long as you access the low down power. Comfort, well, it's a bit of a stretch to those dirt bike style bars, but the riding position is overall pretty good and feels most relaxed. The suspension is also fairly supple. Build quality, our Sportster scores a 9. You see, these bikes are built to last. Every component is solid, and providing you look after the chrome properly, it will happily see you through many years of ownership. Value for money, well, around $5,999, but almost £1,000 more than the standard 883. The Sportster is well priced and a fairly good bet for the first time buyer of a custom style machine. 8 out of 10. Street cred, 7 out of 10, because non-bikers think the Sportster is a fairly serious machine, lending a combination of presence, decoration and noise.